An STM officer was going to his girlfriend's wedding. He was dressed like an ordinary girl. No official car, no security, just riding a motorcycle like any regular girl. When he got near Hasnabad town, he noticed a police checkpoint up ahead. 3 or 4 officers were standing by the roadside outside the checkpoint, and in the middle stood Inspector Prosenjit in uniform. The inspector signaled her to stop with a baton. The girl pulled her motorcycle off the road and parked it to the side. The inspector asked sharply, "Where are you headed?" The girl, she replied very calmly, "My friend is getting married. I'm going there." Inspector Prosenjit looked her up and down. The girl was a beautiful 28-year-old woman named Barnaly Singh. Then he laughed and said, "So, you're going to eat and drink at your friend's wedding, but why didn't you wear a helmet? Whose helmet is that? Your dad's? And you were riding that motorcycle way too fast. All right, now I have to give you a ticket." While pulling out the ticket pad, Inspector Prosenjit said this. Barnaly realized things weren't looking good and that this was a trap. She said, "Sir, I haven't broken any law." "Hey ma'am, don't try to teach us the law." She stood beside him, looked at a constable, then glanced at Barnaly and said, "She needs to be taught a lesson." Suddenly, the inspector slapped Barnaly hard on the cheek. "Asking too many questions, huh? When the police say something, you just keep quiet and accept it." Barnaly's head spun for a moment, but she pulled herself together. Anger was clear in her eyes. The inspector in charge laughed and said, "I've dealt with plenty like her who still have pride left. They need to be taught a good lesson." A constable stepped forward. He came over and said, "Sir, let's take her to the police station. They'll give proper service there, and then she'll understand how to talk to the police." One constable grabbed Barnaly's arm and pulled her, saying, "Come on, get in the car." Barnaly jerked her hand free and said angrily, "Don't even try to touch me, or there will be serious consequences." The inspector got even angrier and said to a constable, "Look at his arrogance." Then one constable stepped forward, grabbed Barnaly Singh's hair and tried to drag her forcefully. Barnaly cried out in pain. But up until then, she still hadn't said who she was. She just wanted to see how far they would go. He might come down. Then a cop, furious, hit his motorcycle with a baton and shouted loudly, "Looking all high and mighty, huh? Now I'm gonna make a toy out of you." Barnaly Singh clearly understood what was about to happen to him and just how low these guys were willing to go. The inspector was furious. He yelled, "I've seen plenty of smartasses like you. You want to mess with the police? Today you're going to regret it."
Take him to the station. We'll teach him a lesson there. Meanwhile, Barnaly Singh was still silent. She showed no intention of revealing who she was. She just wanted to see how far they'd go in tarnishing the administration's reputation, how far they'd sink. He could be abusive. Inspector Prosenjit was getting annoyed now. In front of him stood a woman with a soft, beautiful cheek that had been slapped. Her hair had been pulled. She was forcefully dragged by the arm onto the street, but she still stood there like a statue, silent. No screams, no tears. Inspector Prosenjit thought he'd sit at the station and figure out how to treat the stubborn woman. It wasn't just anger, it was a kind of anger that was boiling inside. The chowki-in-charge inspector laughed and said, "Now the life has started moving. Come on, let's head to the station. Let's see how big this gets. Get lost, will you?" As soon as he walked into the station, the inspector shouted loudly, "Hey, where have you been? We need tea and snacks, quick. A special shipment came in today." Barnaly Singh didn't say a word, just stared at the station wall. She was watching how they treated those helpless people who never dared to speak up. Then a constable leaned toward Inspector Prosenjit and whispered, "What's the case, sir?" At the constable's question, Inspector Prosenjit said, "Nothing much, speeding or helmet stuff. Do whatever you want, just make sure to break their arrogance. Once they're inside, don't ask too many questions." Barnaly, she was listening to everything, but her eyes still didn't want to say a word. It was like she wanted this whole story about the police's downfall to come straight from their own mouths. Then the inspector sat down in the chair. He picked up a pen and started twirling it on the table. Then he looked at Barnaly and said, "Tell me your name. Where do you live? Whose daughter are you?" Barnaly stayed silent. The inspector asked again, "Didn't you hear me? What's your name?" But Barnaly's silence was as solid as a stone wall. Then the inspector slammed his hand down on the table so hard the sound echoed through the whole police station and shouted angrily, "Didn't you hear me? Say your name, quickly!" Barnaly turned her face away and answered, "Sumita Sharma." The inspector looked at her and laughed, saying, "You are a smart girl. You've got experience lying. But remember, if you get too clever, it'll backfire badly. Make even one mistake and you won't even get a chance to enjoy yourself." Then they forced Barnali Singh into that rotten lockup, where two other women were already sitting. One of them looked at Barnali and asked, "Sister, did you do something wrong?" Barnali smiled faintly, but didn't say a word. She was just watching how completely corrupt the whole system was. If an SDO officer could be thrown in here without any reason, imagine the plight of ordinary people. Imagining it wasn't hard. Barnali was sitting in that dark corner. Everything around was silent, and every action felt meaningful. Inspector Prosenjit made up a fake report and said, "Here's a case for theft and blackmail." He slapped the file and said, "Come on, hurry up." A constable asked, "But sir, without any proof?" The inspector laughed and said, "In this station, we don't bring proof, we make proof." A little later, a constable came and slapped Barnali hard on the shoulder.
Just as the inspector raised his hand, a firm voice came from the door. "Stop!" Everyone turned to see the senior inspector at the door. Sanjay Verma stood there. His reputation was a bit better than the others. Looking inside at the woman's condition, a frown appeared on his forehead. He asked, "What's all this about?" Prasenjit laughed and said, "Nothing, sir. Just teaching a street-smart woman a lesson." Sanjay looked closely at Barnali. Her behavior didn't seem like that of an ordinary woman. He asked, "What's her crime?" Prasenjit got nervous. Sir, she was rude during the checking." Sanjay had some doubts. He asked Barnali, "What's her name?" Barnali stayed silent. Prasenjit chuckled. "Sir, she won't even tell her name." Sanjay now? He became completely alert. He ordered the constable to keep her locked up alone. Prasenjit was surprised. "But, sir," Sanjay said firmly, "I'll stay right beside her." On his orders, Barnali was locked up in another cell. This one was even smellier and darker than the last one. Barnali looked around. In one corner, there was a broken table lying there. Nearby, an iron rod was resting on a slab. Now she was seeing the real dirty face of the system up close. Every moment her eyes realized that the law existed only on paper. Just then, a constable came running and said, "Sir, there's a big car parked outside." Prasenjit was startled this time. He asked, "What car?" The constable nervously replied, "Sir, it's an official car." He quickly went outside, and as soon as he looked inside the car, his eyes widened in shock. He came back and quietly said, "Sir?" Prasenjit, annoyed, asked, "What is it? Who's here?" The constable, trembling, said, "Sir, the commissioner is here." Prasenjit's face went pale. Senior Inspector Sanjay Verma also became alert because now the matter had reached the top. The commissioner stepped into the police station and his eyes clearly showed his anger. He looked at Prasenjit and asked in a sharp tone, "Inspector Prasenjit, what's going on here? Some kind of mess?" Prasenjit, flustered, replied, "Nothing, sir, just a small case." The commissioner picked up a file from the table and read it carefully. A frown appeared on his forehead. Then he glanced at the clerk and asked, "Who is this?" "Sir, this woman is charged under section 420 for fraud." The clerk said. The commissioner asked, "Do you have any proof?" He repeated, "Do you have any proof?" By now, Prasenjit looked completely pale. The commissioner turned to the woman and asked directly, "What is your name?" And for the first time, Barnali Singh said with a faint smile, "SDO Barnali Singh." Silence spread all over the police station. Everyone's faces turned pale. Prasenjit's hands and legs started shaking. The other constables stood there stunned. The ground seemed to vanish from beneath Prasenjit's feet. The officer he had thought was a thief was actually the one running the entire district's law and order. She wasn't just any ordinary woman. She was none other than SDO Barnali Singh herself. The same woman who had been dragged off the street, had her hair pulled and been slapped. As soon as this truth came out, chaos erupted throughout the whole police station. All the constables went silent. The commissioner glared sharply at Inspector Prasenjit and angrily said, "Prasenjit, where did you get the guts to falsely accuse a senior officer?" Prasenjit tried to say something. Then Senior Inspector Sanjay Verma, who was standing there, spoke up loudly. Sir, I had already said there was something fishy going on. Now Prasenjit was completely on his own. Then for the first time, Barnali Singh announced the verdict in her calm but firm voice and said, Prasenjit, your job is over. Your suspension is final and there is going to be a case against you now. Hearing this, Prasenjit felt like he couldn't breathe. The other cops looked away from him. Sanjay Sharma immediately shouted, Havildar, grab him and lock him up. But then Prasenjit pulled out a crumpled paper from his pocket, smiling as he said, Hold on, madam. Take a look at this first.
Do whatever you want after that. He showed them the paper. Both the commissioner and Barnali Singh looked at him right away. Prasenjit said, Here's my transfer order. I got transferred 3 days ago. No matter how angry you are, you can't fire me now. The entire police station went silent. He left. Barnali took the paper in her hand and read it. The commissioner squinted and looked at Senior Inspector Sanjay Verma, saying, Go check if this paper is real or just for show. Sanjay glanced at the computer records, then looked up and said, Sir, this is real. But the new inspector hasn't officially taken over yet. So the old inspector is still officially in charge here, and all the crimes were committed under his watch. Now no one can save him. Barnali Singh looked him straight in the eye and said, From now on, your new address will be wherever you used to send others in. The commissioner nodded in agreement. As 2 constables moved forward to grab him, Prasenjit acted quickly again and said, Stop, ma'am. I'm not alone. Do you really think it's all my fault? Then he pointed towards the other police officers in the station and said, They're all with me. Everyone up there is involved. Some of the police officers turned pale. Senior Inspector Sanjay Verma, sensing the situation, started looking around one by one. Barnali Singh looked at the commissioner and said, Now we have to clean out this entire station. No one gets spared. The commissioner replied, As you command, ma'am. Now, one by one, we'll get to the bottom of this. As soon as those words left his mouth, it was like lightning struck the police station. Outside, a few reporters stood silently, already suspicious that something big was going down inside. When they heard that the entire station had been lined up, they immediately started spreading the news on their phones. A shiny car pulled up, the door opened, and the SP himself stepped out. He looked around and saw that everyone's faces were burned out with shock. All the officers stood to one side, and the SP said, This circus has been going on here for a long time. But the commissioner and the station in charge stood completely silent. Then looking the SP straight in the eye, Barnali Singh said, Do you really think you're going to get away with this? Without hesitation, Sanjay Verma pulled out a file and handed it to Barnali Singh. This file exposed all the dirty work the SP had been involved in. Barnali Singh pushed the file towards the SP and said, Here, take a look. This has all your dirty dealings on record. Sweat started dripping down the SP's forehead. The commissioner immediately shouted, Arrest him, and do it now. The whole police station was left stunned. It's over. No one had ever publicly challenged such a high-ranking officer like that before. As soon as the SP was arrested, chaos broke out all over the district. The matter even reached Delhi. The chief minister got wind of it and immediately ordered that every officer involved in the mess be arrested and locked up. Within the next 2 days, more than 40 police officers, over 10 senior officers, and a few political leaders were taken into custody from all over the district. The entire atmosphere of Hassanabad district changed overnight. Now the only thing everyone was talking about was SD0 Barnali Singh. The guy with honesty and courage shook up the whole rotten system. Now there was a new energy in the administration, a new way of thinking, and most importantly, a fear that no one could get away with anything. Barnali Singh's job was done. He showed that if your intentions are pure from the heart, you can reform the entire country. If you watched the video till the end, please give it a like and subscribe to stay connected.